Namaskar, Jai Shri Krishna. Enlightening Text 1, Text 2 and Text 3 of Chapter 7, Knowledge of the Absolute of Srimad Bhagavad-gita. Text 1, Shri Bhagavan-uvacha Maya Sakta Manaha Partha Yogam Yunjana Madashrayah Asamshayam Samagram Mama Yatha Jnasyasi Tacha Chunu. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Now hear, O son of Prutha, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt." In this 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the nature of Krishna's consciousness is fully described. Krishna is full in all opulences, and how he manifests such opulences is described herein. Also, 4 kinds of fortunate people who become attached to Krishna and 4 kinds of unfortunate people who never take to Krishna are described in this chapter. In the first 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita, the living entity has been described as non-material spirit soul capable of elevating himself to self-realization by different types of yogas. At the end of the 6th chapter, it has been clearly stated that the steady concentration of the mind upon Krishna, or in other words, Krishna's consciousness, is the highest form of all yoga. By concentrating one's mind upon Krishna, one is able to know the absolute truth completely, but not otherwise. Impersonal Brahma Jyoti or localized Paramatma realization is not perfect knowledge of the absolute truth because it is partial. Full and scientific knowledge is Krishna, and everything is revealed to the person in Krishna's consciousness. In complete Krishna's consciousness, one knows that Krishna is ultimate knowledge beyond any doubts. Different types of yoga are only stepping stones on the path of Krishna's consciousness. One who takes directly to Krishna's consciousness automatically knows about Brahma Jyoti and Paramatma in full. By practice of Krishna's consciousness yoga, one can know everything in full, namely the absolute truth, the living entities, the material nature, and their manifestations with paraphernalia. One should therefore begin yoga practice as directed in the last verse of the 6th chapter. Concentration of the mind upon Krishna, the Supreme, is made possible by prescribed devotional service in 9 different forms, of which Shravanam is the first and most important. The Lord therefore says to Arjuna, "Tacha Chrunu," or hear from me. No one can be a greater authority than Krishna, and therefore by hearing from him, one receives the greatest opportunity to become a perfectly Krishna's conscious person. One has therefore to learn from Krishna directly, or from a pure devotee of Krishna, and not from a non-devotee upstart puffed up with academic knowledge. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, this process of understanding Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth, is described in the 2nd chapter of the 1st canto as follows. Shrunavatam swakatah Krishnah punya shravana kirtanah rudi antah sthohi abhadrani vidhunoti surutsatam nasta prayesva abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttam shloke bhaktir bhavati naishathiki tada rajas tamo bhavaha kamalobha dayasha chaye seta itair anaviddham sthitam satve prasiddhati ivam prasanna manaso Bhagavata Bhakti Yogatah Bhagavata Tattva Vijnanam Mukta Sangasya Jayate Vidayate Rudaya Granthisha Chidayante Sarva Samshayaha Shiyante Chasya Karmani Drushta Ivata Mana Ishware. To hear about Krishna from Vedic literatures, or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad Gita, is itself righteous activity. And for one who hears about Krishna, Lord Krishna, who is dwelling in everyone's heart, acts as a best wishing friend and purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him. In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge. As he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam and from the devotees, he becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord. By development of devotional service, one becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance. and thus material lusts and avarice are diminished. When these impurities are wiped away, the candidate remains steady in his position of pure goodness, becomes enlivened by devotional service, and understands the science of God perfectly. Thus, Bhakti Yoga severs the hard knot of material affection and enables one to come at once to the stage of Asamshayam Samagram, understanding of the Supreme Absolute Truth Personality of Godhead. Bhagavatam 1.2.17 to 21. Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee, in Krishna's consciousness, can one understand the science of Krishna. Text 2. Jnanam te aham savidnyanmidam vakshayamya sheshatah jajadnyatva neha bhuyo ana yajadnyata vyamava shishyate. I shall now declare unto you in full this knowledge, both phenomenal and numinous. This being known, nothing further shall remain for you to know. Complete knowledge includes knowledge of the phenomenal world, the spirit behind it, and the source of both of them. This is transcendental knowledge. The Lord wants to explain the above mentioned system of knowledge because Arjuna is Krishna's confidential devotee and friend. In the beginning of the 4th chapter, this explanation was given by the Lord, and it is again confirmed here. Complete knowledge can be achieved only by the devotee of the Lord in disciplic succession directly from the Lord. Therefore, one should be intelligent enough to know the source of all knowledge, who is the cause of all causes, and the only object for meditation in all types of yoga practice. When the cause of all causes becomes known, then everything knowable becomes known and nothing remains unknown. The Vedas Mundaka Upanishad 1.3 say, Kasmin nu bhagavo vidnyate sarvam idam vidnyatam bhavatiti. Text 3. Manushyanam sahastreshu kashachida yatati siddhaye yatatampi siddhanam kashachin mama vetti tatvatah. Out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection, and of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. There are various grades of men, and out of many thousands, one may be sufficiently interested in transcendental knowledge to try to know what is the self, what is the body, and what is the absolute truth. Generally, mankind is simply engaged in the animal propensities, namely eating, sleeping, defending, and mating, and hardly anyone is interested in transcendental knowledge. The first 6 chapters of the Gita are meant for those who are interested in transcendental knowledge, in understanding the self, the super self, and the process of realization by Jnana Yoga and discrimination of the self from matter. However, Krishna can be known only by persons who are in Krishna's consciousness. Other transcendentalists may achieve impersonal Brahma realization, for this is easier than understanding Krishna. Krishna is the Supreme Person, but at the same time he is beyond the knowledge of Brahma and Paramatma. The yogis and jnanis are confused in their attempts to understand Krishna. Although the greatest of the impersonalists, Sripad Shankaracharya, has admitted in his Gita commentary that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his followers do not accept Krishna as such, for it is very difficult to know Krishna even though one has transcendental realization of impersonal Brahma. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes, the primeval Lord Govinda. Ishvaraha Paramaha Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govindaha Sarva Karana Karanam. It is very difficult for the non-devotee to know him. Although non-devotees declare that the path of bhakti or devotional service is very easy, they cannot practice it. If the path of bhakti is so easy, as the non-devotee class of men proclaim, then why do they take up the difficult path? Actually, the path of bhakti is not easy. The so-called path of bhakti, practiced by unauthorized persons, without knowledge of bhakti may be easy, but when it is practiced factually according to the rules and regulations, the speculative scholars and philosophers fall away from the path. Srila Rupa Goswami writes in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.101, Shruti Smruti Puran Adi Pancharatra Vidhim Vina Ekantiki Hare Bhaktir Uttapata Yaiva Kalpate. Devotional service of the Lord that ignores the authorized Vedic literatures like the Upanishad Puranas and Narada Pancharatra is simply an unnecessary disturbance in society. It is not possible for the Brahma realized impersonalist or the Paramatma realized yogi to understand Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as the son of Mother Yashoda or the charioteer of Arjuna. Even the great demigods are sometimes confused about Krishna. Muhayanti Yata Surayah Mamatu Vedana Kashachana. No one knows me as I am, the Lord says. And if one does know him, then Sa Mahatma Sudur Labhaha. Such a great soul is very rare. Therefore, unless one practices devotional service of the Lord, one cannot know Krishna as he is Tattvataha, even though one is a great scholar or philosopher. Only the pure devotees can know something of the inconceivable transcendental qualities in Krishna, his being the cause of all causes, his omnipotence and opulence, and his wealth, fame, strength, beauty, knowledge and renunciation, because Krishna is benevolently inclined to his devotees. He is the last word in Brahma realization and the devotees alone can know him as he is. Therefore it is said, Ataha Shrikrishna Namadi na bhaved grahayam indriyaiha sevon mukhe hi jihavadau swayam eva spurti adaha. No one can understand Krishna as he is by the blunt material senses, but he reveals himself to the devotees, being pleased with them for their transcendental loving service unto him. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.234. Thank you.